Hi there, I hope you're doing okay. I'd love to share with you for just a couple of moments a few thoughts that I've had this morning. It's fascinating how God seems to speak through very ordinary and everyday things. We as a family have a playlist on Amazon and everyone contributes and nothing really gets deleted off there. So we've got songs on there that were the kids' favourite songs years ago. And as I was walking to the church building this morning, I was listening to that playlist on random, on shuffle. And the song How Far I'll Go from the film Moana came on. That was one of Isabel's choices years ago. And I began to think throughout that song, and maybe it was a God moment, I don't know, but I began to think about Moana and her existence. See, she lived on a small island, a Polynesian island, and her existence was very limited. And for everybody else on the island, the existence was fine. They were comfortable and content with staying safe and the boundaries that the island naturally created for them. But Moana knew that there was more to life. She knew that there was an adventure that lay beyond the reef. And so we find the refrain in the song that the ocean seems to call to her, where the sky, where the line of the sky meets the sea, it calls to her. This sense of being called out of the safety, out of the known into the unknown. And it just got me thinking about God's call to us as believers and how sometimes we gravitate towards that which is safe, that which is familiar, that which is known, that which is perhaps comfortable, that which has been our experience for so long. And I believe that God is calling Christians in this day into an adventure. Christians to say yes to fullness of life in Him, yes to full pursuit of Him, yes to the adventure of following Him beyond the reef and beyond the horizon. So is there a guarantee for Moana that if she sails past the reef that everything's going to be fine and in some way safe and measured and predictable? No. If you've seen the film, you'll know that her adventure takes her into all kinds of peril and danger, and yet it's the right thing to do. And as I think about this, I feel called again personally, and I want to share the call with you. I feel called again to step into the fullness of the adventure, to step into the deeper things, the next things, the unknown of God, to say no to the familiarity, to say no to settling, to say no to boundaries, and to instead trust God with my life and allow Him to take me where He wants to take me. And I want to ask the question, therefore, do you do that with God? Do you say, Lord, my life is in your hands. Would you take me where you will? Would you take me where you want to take me? Would you, by your Holy Spirit, lead me in the things that lie ahead for my life? Or do you say instead, Lord, thank you for all that you've done. Let me just safeguard this. Let me stay here in this place. The tendency to settle isn't a new one. Even in the very presence of Jesus, the disciples wanted to make tents and preserve the moment instead of pressing on in the adventure. And I want to suggest that filled with the Holy Spirit and being open to the things of the Spirit can take us out of our comfort zone. It can take us out of our familiarity. It can take us out of the things that we know. And I want to just issue the challenge. Are you willing to say yes to God in that? I guess another layer of what I was thinking about is the reality that for Moana, she wasn't breaking new ground in terms of what people from her island had done previously. She, at one point in the film, finds a cave where there are ships and vessels that had been used for previous exploration. And yet something had happened with the people that had gone before, and they'd got spooked by something and decided to create a boundary for themselves and retire the ships and say, well, that's not for us. And my sense is that there are people that have perhaps stepped into the things of the Spirit previously, perhaps being open to exploring life in the Spirit and the adventure that God calls us to, who for whatever reason have instead decided, having dipped a toe in, to then retire the ship. And I want to say to you this day that where the sea meets the sky on that line, that God still calls you, that God still invites you again into an adventure, again into a pursuit of the more of Him and the things of His Spirit. So let me just remind you of that call that God invites you into. And is it a safe call? It's not. When I think of the word safe, I immediately think of Mr. Beaver and Susan in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. You'll remember, if you've read the story, that Susan was told that Aslan was a lion, and she said, "Oh, I thought he was a man. I'm a little bit nervous about this. Is he safe?" And Mr. Beaver, almost with a tone of incredulity, this tone of kind of, "Don't be ridiculous," he says, "Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe, but he's good." And we're called as believers in a loving, caring, gracious God. We're called into an adventure that isn't safe, but is overseen by and is held by a God who is always good. So let me encourage you, let me invite you again into the adventure, into the deeper, into the across the horizon things of God in his Spirit. God be with you guys.